this Skype technology, I gotta tell you, I'm a live girl. I'm more about getting on the stage and doing all of this. He's over here and he's like, oh, you gotta look at this and set this up. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm like, let's just do our thing. So we kind of put the makeshift thing together, and I'm like, he did a magnificent job. Absolutely wonderful. So I'm very impressed.
In about a minute and a half.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, there's been a lot going on here. It's been quite the crazy day, and the films were wonderful today so far. So we've done very well. So
excellent.
We literally just pushed record. So basically, I'm going to go through this entire literal 45 minutes or an hour that we have here together to talk about all these things. And then what I'm going to do is, of course, share this with our fellow actors, etc., anybody that's in here. And I'd like to use it as a teaching tool. That's one of my biggest things about the festival, is to be able to pass on knowledge to other people. And of course, I already know his work. I'm familiar with some of your work, and of course, excited to show Telltale Heart, because it seems to be one of those go-to projects. I looked on my list with the judges, and I see scores that are high and comments that are good, but I'm not getting into that. I'm giving away too much. So tomorrow is the big day for you. Oh, like you don't know this already, dude. I've seen your wins. I've seen all the accolades. Quit with the hiding. Yeah, you're fabulous. That's why you're on the panel. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Fabulous number 2. So let's start off with Danny. I'd like you to do an introduction to the crowd. Let everybody know how long you've been acting, some of the other things you've been doing, and more importantly, how you guys are holding up. I think it's important to talk about the current and how we're doing.
Yeah, well, I started acting as a child. I guess my first professional gig would have been when I was 11, but basically acting in school plays, musicals, and also some television and movies in Germany as a teenager before I went to America. I grew up in Germany, Berlin, Germany. I'm the son of 2 Americans who lived in Berlin. One of them still does live in Berlin, and I grew up there, went to a German-American high school. I'm bilingual. But went to NYU to go to college, NYU undergraduate drama, studied acting and directing at the Playwrights Horizons Theater School, and have been mainly living in New York ever since, but I've also worked in Germany since, and as a composer, as an actor, as a music director, as a teaching artist, and as a director. And I've just now, with this film, I am transitioning into being a filmmaker.
Ah, very nice.
After mostly doing, theater and producing theater or acting in theater, both as an actor, as a composer, as a director, as a producer, and a music director.
Ah, yes. And of course, another New Yorker here. I will let Michael introduce himself.
Hello, Michael Gentile. Been acting on and off for most of my life. You start off at kids' plays, playing an elf the month of March, whatever, all those silly kids' roles, and wound up veering towards a military career, then just back and forth a little, got back into acting a bit later, and I've been slogging it through ever since, and just on and off between theater and film, and getting more into producing now as well. So I think, like Danny, the more hats you wear, the better, the more things you're capable of, and just finding different ways to express yourself and make things happen.
Great.
Comparatively, as far as your education, actor-wise, you came from your educational background in terms of acting?
Well, I didn't study in school, actually. I went from military science to political science and history. Found that rather useless, because the more you learn about politics, the less you want any part of it. And any good intentions you have are quickly to be dashed. So I wound up going to conservatory after college, when I just paused one day in the middle of my corporate job, and I said, what am I doing this for? I can't stand it. I hate the environment. I hate the people. And, there's something inside that you want to express. And I said, let me get back to what I've been doing on and off for most of my life. So I started going to different conservatories and just checking things out. I knew nothing about what to do or where to go. It's the first thing I would advise people is, you may not know what you need, but you're aware of what you don't want, what's not working for you. But, be prepared to do the hard work. If something makes you a bit uncomfortable, but for the right reason, maybe it's better, a good acting program will put you in touch with certain emotions and expression that you may not be ready at a young age to explore. But it's often worth doing the work and breaking that barrier within yourself, so you can be a fully expressive on stage, on film. So you can really do the work and make it a real state of natural being rather than a forced fake performance from someone that's hiding what's really within them, you know?
Mm-hmm. I, just to tag on to that, when I was looking for colleges back in the day, I thought, I just as an advice, try to find the school that's right for you, what you're looking for, what you need. If you can figure out for yourself what speaks to you in terms of, that's sometimes more important than the school with the right name, with the right prestige.
Mm-hmm.
Find the school, I made that discovery in my audition process back after high school, looking for colleges, and surprised to realize, oh, this school is not right for me, and they realize I'm not right for them. That's maybe just as well. And then some schools were like, yeah, you're right for us. We want you. And I gravitated towards them too. And it was good to know at that time what the right fit could be, because I saw a lot of acting students floundering in school and paying a lot of money because they weren't getting what they needed and they didn't necessarily know what they needed. Whereas in my 3 years at NYU, I just, I grabbed at everything I could that I knew I really wanted to learn. I just, I ate it as a full meal, and that if you're going to pay that kind of money for an education, it's good to have that attitude and go for it and really take it in.
I can't help but notice, but I hear that sound in your voice. So does that mean that you have an accent to begin with because you're from Germany originally? Because I can hear it. It's not real thick.
I don't think I have an accent. When I first went to NYU, we all had to take speech and voice classes, and we had these Juilliard trained teachers who were like all trying to get rid of our regional, dialects or regional sounds. And my teacher for the longest time couldn't figure out what my regionalism was until he realized I had the German staccato in my voice. I had the rhythms of a Germanic speaker. And then I got rid of that. And then the next year I was doing a play in Germany, and my German didn't have the rhythms. It had the American rhythms in my German pronunciation. I had to then relearn how to do the staccato in the German. So I don't know what you're hearing right now over Zoom, but it might be a lack of an American regionalism, but I shouldn't have any Germanic sounds in my voice. That I never had them. I just had the rhythms when I was a teenager, and that got ironed out, so to speak.
It's funny because even like somebody like Gary Oldman, for his last film, he needed a vocal coach to nail down the British accent again because he's been here so long, and he's lost some of it.
Right, and I don't know what I'm taking on. I've been living in America for over 30 years now, but I don't think I might have taken on a sound here, a sound there. I think I sound more American now than I did when I first got here. And so it might be a mishmash of different regional influences. And sometimes I take on where I am and I begin to sound a little bit like my environment without knowing that I'm doing that. So I don't know.
You bet. Yeah. And I've seen the movie. So obviously, of course, when I'm watching you perform, you sound a little bit different than you do right now, which there's nothing wrong with. So before we move on to some important questions, give me your best accent. Right off the top, without thinking, do a little something. Give me a little something right now.
Well, of course, I'm going to give you the German accent because that's the easiest way for me to access. You see, if you want me to German accent, I can do it very Berliner. If you want me to be from Berlin, or I can do a little more, Munich, a little more of a lilt from southern Germany in my American accent, if you like. Yeah.
Oh, look at that. All right, Mr. Gentile.
Ciao, piacere. Come stai? And I'll throw in a little, we have ways of making you talk.
Listen to you. See, look at this. Drama. Okay, now I have to ask because, of course, Danny, I know that you're married. So talk a bit about, oftentimes I think when people look at actors, they say to themselves, well, for one, it's either the traditional, which is only an actor can be with an actor, or on the opposite side of the fence, it's usually somebody like I have really dear friends, like Steve Stanulus, our friend Steve, is married to a person not even in industry. So talk a bit about your hubby and, of course, obviously, what he brings to the table in terms of for you personally and professionally, as well as you, Michael. You can speak about your partner and how she brings things personally and professionally to you. Danny?
Well, my husband, Ed, who's going to be very shocked that I'm suddenly talking about him.
I get it, though.
He's in the room. Yeah, I'm not going to turn the camera on him right now. I
No,
think
that's all right. We're good.
he just went, no, you don't. He acts in my movie, Telltale Heart, a music,
Yes.
but only because I made him. He's not an actor. He's a psychotherapist, and so he very much is from a different world. And we did not meet through theater. We, met completely outside of that world.
Nice.
And so, yeah, as you said, he would be on the opposite side of that fence as you set it up. But when I was when I've been producing, he's always been there as my co-producer.
Nice.
So he's sort of a support that way.
Yes.
And so he helped out on Total Heart, the production. He was part of all of that. He was there on the set every day except when he had to go see his clients.
Nice.
And yes, and he's the guy I murder on screen. But I am such a narcissist that I would not show his face on screen. You don't see his face. You just see his hands and his body, and you see him from behind. Now, of course, it's an artistic choice. I joke about the narcissism.
Yes.
But yeah, but he's going to be in the sequel, or not the sequel, the follow-up. I am actually making another musica based on Poe.
Yes.
And that one, his face will be seen. So
nice.
It's an upgrade.
Very cool.
But in terms of being an actor, he did a lot of Gilbert and Sullivan when he was a teenager in high school, but he does not consider himself an actor or performer. He does not like actually being in front of people, except when I drag him in. There was a concert we did of a piece of mine called The Song of Job 9/11, and the video of that is on my website. And so you can see him sing that. He was one of the basses.
Nice.
Performing that in the ensemble, 16 people performing.
Cool.
But other than that, he does not consider himself an actor, and he's not really in the business, except for me when I make him come to my side.
I get it. You betcha.
It's nice to do just enough acting when you're young to know that you don't want any part of it later,
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Michael.
Instead of what might have been.
Now, on your side of the fence, talk a bit about in terms of your partner and how important is it to have a partner per se, especially in this industry, because it's very challenging being an actor and the demands and everything that comes with it. So talk a bit about your relationship and more importantly, how you balance that, meaning that how important is it to have that support of that partner and how do you manage to make that work? Because it's demanding to be an actor.
Well, and hats off to anybody who appreciates actors and knows that we can be a little difficult at times. But yeah, it's always nice somebody who brings something else to the table, like Cindy. As you probably know, Danny is just a media machine and knows that whole world, which I'm not particularly good at. I don't necessarily enjoy it, but it's such a necessity if you want anything to really get anywhere and get yourself out there in your projects. So it really is complementary to the extreme. She relies on me on some of the showmanship elements, which I find her outstanding with a couple of tweaks maybe, but she's a natural showgirl, but doesn't really want to do it. So, but yeah, it is nice because since the actor's life is such an odd and unreliable and inconsistent way to live, it's nice to have somebody else bring so much to the table where they understand it just enough. And to still offer many things that can enhance, they can enhance each other.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting too nowadays, and that's one of the things I want to talk to you guys about. We're living in a very different climate right now. Obviously, things are very difficult. All of us are wearing different hats, doing different jobs, etc. So talk a bit, both of you, about when you're advising actors right now as they're watching this, new actors, old-time actors, veteran actors, any stage, whether it's theater or otherwise, how are you going to stand out among all this chaos and craziness right now? What's going to keep getting you cast right now when it's just so uncertain on so many levels?
That's
for Danny as a, okay.
I'm glad you're first there, Danny.
Well, I don't know if I'm the best person to get started on this. I mean, even before this got crazier, I've been sort of pulling back and focusing on my own work, rather than putting myself out there. I haven't really auditioned in a while. I made Telltale Heart. I finished it. I'm putting that out there. That's sort of been my calling card. And I thought I'd be in physical festivals, meeting people in person, and sort of
Right.
launching myself as a filmmaker, as a composer, and as an actor, sort of as that triple threat, I guess, in that way. And now I'm still doing it. I am at festivals. I'm doing panels like this, and it's all online now. But it's a different world, and we're all sort of getting used to that. You know, for actors now who, I haven't looked, but I don't even know how much is auditioning, while there's, how much work is there right now being offered when theaters are closed, when most productions, only few Hollywood productions under very strict circumstances are even going out there and trying to film. And even then they're having trouble,
Sure.
They just had to shut down the Batman set because someone, possibly the lead, got tested positive, and so now they're on hold for 14 days, and that's the
Right.
big Hollywood production there. So I don't know what is up for indie. I mean, I'm worried that I may be ready to shoot my next film, but I can't because the circumstances are too forbidding for a low budget indie film to build a set and film. I don't know what New York State will allow, within the next 3, 5, 6 months. It may be later. So a lot of uncertainty. My advice would be, at this point, do what probably a lot of people are doing, is try to be creative alone in your home, or creating things, through this new Zoom online video editing technology. Create your own projects. A lot of festivals are having special categories for quarantine movies, I've noticed. And if you go on the, and so they're looking for people to create films now that respond to this situation using the creative tools they have at hand in their own homes. So I would say, if you're an actor frustrated because you don't know where to go right now, make something like this. Make something at home, figure it out. Netflix just put on a anthology series where they got like 20 major directors and actors to make short films while they were under quarantine, while they were under lockdown. So it's even called Lockdown or something like that. Look at that. See what the great directors who answered that call created, and maybe you'll get inspired to create your own alternate short film made this way, and then get that out. Take advantage of the special festivals that have got a special category for quarantine films, and that might be a way to launch yourself.
Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree completely. You have to do what you have to do to keep it artistically active and inspired, which is probably the most of what you're going to get out of it, since the entities like who control all the streaming, like Netflix, don't like to pay anybody. So you just have to stay in the game. Like you said, I know a lot of writers and all. Of course, they've got all kinds of time to do their thing. It's tougher for performance art, but I've seen entire productions on Zoom, which I'm going to burn as soon as the pandemic's over. I've been rehearsing for a couple of things on Zoom, and we keep rehearsing, and it's like, when are we gonna just shoot the damn thing, But it's just keep the kettle boiling, simmering a little bit as long as you can. As far as advice to new people, I just moved out of New York City myself because there's no point in paying all that rent, and with all the increased crime and everything, for auditions. Like Danny was saying, I mean, I see somebody on Facebook who says, hey, I got the first audition in 6 months or something like that in person. That's the exception. So, it's a good time to get out of the rat race a little bit and evaluate as an artist, and work on what you can work on, because there ain't a whole lot happening, and you don't even have permission if you're ready, unless you want to do things on the sly, which I'm not advising anybody to do, but do what you got to do.
Absolutely. And I heard that you have a stage show that you might be entertaining doing, taking on the road. There's one way to stay active, an actual stage show.
Well, some states are okay with you making a living, and others aren't. So there are little pockets of opportunity out there to bring a little live entertainment to people who hopefully not everybody is. I think hopefully enough people are getting tired of clicking and sitting on the couch, and they do want to get out there and experience the real thing.
Yeah, but then I guess it's also where are you allowed to perform or can you perform live? I
Right.
mean, one of my musicals is being produced in Germany right now, which has been handling the pandemic, as we all know, better than this country has.
Yeah.
But even they, they're doing it like a cafe style. So the audience is sitting at tables apart from each other, which means they can seat only 30 something people were in a theater that they maybe normally would have seated over 100. They've got these restrictions, but at least they can still do live theater. But they're probably going to have to rehearse it in a particular way with the two actresses that protects them as well. I'll be curiously following that process because I'm like, wow, live theater is happening somewhere in the world that in these countries that are still dealing with these restrictions and these dangers that we're dealing with. I don't know when we're going to have officially be able to do live theater in New York City again.
Right.
When this started early on, they were very quick at saying we probably won't be able to do Broadway until January. But
Oh, gosh.
will we be able to do Broadway before there's a vaccine out? I don't know.
Sure.
That's really frustrating and really sad.
My suspicion is that things are going to ease up, say November 4th, right after the election, and all of a sudden they'll see the light. Everybody will calm down a bit.
Well, and I think part of it is one of the things that I find important to ask, of course, is now you have so many actors that are looking for a job and obviously auditioning and trying to find something to do to keep their hopes alive, of course. So again, I have to ask how, what is it about Danny, let's say, that a casting director will be able to notice now versus before? You know what I'm saying? How do you put yourself more on the radar right now when it seems as though thousands of people are just waiting for that shot, because even more now we're home, we're restless, people want to work. Why you? You know what I mean? How do you make yourself sparkle or shine or stand out now?
Well, it helps to have a 30-minute film that is easily viewable online. If you want to know any casting
Right.
director and agent, shoot me an email. I will send you the Vimeo link with the password and you can see it for free.
Ah,
Or I'm sorry, watch it tomorrow on Art is Alive.
yeah, that's
you
what I'm
know,
saying. You betcha. I've noticed that oftentimes the other part of the equation is we've seen this, right? In terms of everybody nowadays, and it's like this is writers too, because I've been a writer a long time. And so somebody does like a half a book or ghost writes and they're like, I'm a professional author. So I imagine in your arena, what when people are looking at your history now, are things rewritten a bit because of this pandemic? Meaning, do you think there's going to be some provisions allowed or give me's allowed that you wouldn't have had when you first started? You know what I mean? Because crisis oftentimes changes the gamut in the game, right?
yeah, maybe. I don't know. I tend to be a half empty first kind of guy. So my feeling is, it's good. There's going to be less work out there. And so the people who are not well known are going to have even harder time to be seen and heard because they can't be
Mhm.
met in person as easily. All these things make it more difficult. But, actors have been filming themselves doing auditions and sending in those recordings via the internet even before this happened.
Sure.
So a lot of the things that even the people did through their laptops, through their cameras, through the internet as a way to get into contact with each other and meet each other, that existed already before. The problem right now is how can you safely make a project? I think meeting each other, getting in touch via Skype or whatever for interviews and auditions, that has already been established, at least in the film industry, maybe not the theater industry, but I think the theater can maybe start doing that more and be more comfortable with that as a means on auditioning actors, that they don't always have to be in the room necessarily. But how to safely produce the next project if you need to be in the room together making it, that you know th- that is the big question, and that's where I'm afraid that right now, at least for the time being, there's just going to be less being made, and that means there's less work for the people who make films or who act in them, because it'll be harder for productions to go up, and especially perhaps hard for independent productions if they want to go up properly, not on the sly, as you said, but actually within the rules that the state that they're in puts out.
Sure.
But it might mean not filming in New York State. It might mean filming in a state that is a little more relaxed. And then your actors might be, maybe I don't want to be in that state because it's a little more relaxed and I don't feel safe. It depends on, what the circumstances are. And you just have to sort of try to be educated as to what's going on and where we're at, and hope that, just like we're trying to figure out how to have school and we're
Right.
still figuring it out. It's the same question. How can we make films? How can we do this work? I think the pressure, also New York State will be on to try to figure out ways to create guidelines that make us feel safe, that are safe, that still allow us to do the work and be able to do the work, even if we are low budget indie films or indie theater, off Broadway, etc. That there are ways to do this that allow arts to flourish. But we can't do it completely on our own. We need the infrastructure, and we need our governors or our governance to help create those infrastructures that will make us feel safe and allow us to do the work properly and affordably.
Sure. No.
Yeah, and the only plus side is that every day more actors are packing it in, at least temporarily, and leaving places like New York and LA because just they can't exist and hold out. So that at least tweaks the odds a little in our favor, but that's a hell of a way to do it.
Well, that's a cynical way to put it.
Glass is a quarter full.
Yes, absolutely. I find it interesting. One of the topics that I brought up to talk about today, of course, improv, because at some point in an actor's career, everybody improvs. But what I find is that an actor's ability to be able to effectively and efficiently improv, automatically, I think, raises the bar. You know what I mean? I'm sitting here next to somebody who literally, I have watched him be a garbage man, and he literally, without words, was able to move me and keep me interested. And I rave about that film even to this day, that he came out of a garbage can and he did so much to make me feel, to make me laugh, to make me cringe. It was awesome. So both of you talk a bit about your career as far as, and Michael, you could start in terms of how important it is to improvise, in terms of how necessary is it for you to be a better actor. Some insist, like, I just want to improv my way through everything, so how important is it for you? And more importantly, to someone who has never had to improv, use their body language or use their face, etc., how would you instruct them to take the next step to become better at that? Because that's got to help overall in terms of the whole process, right?
Mm-hmm, sure, but you have to be careful too. When I started, I was a shameless improviser. I would improvise everything. I would just rewrite things, try different ways of expressing it, and I realized that sometimes it's just disrespectful to the writer, to the filmmaker. Now I'm much more measured. I get a sense of how much is enough. That's what's great when you have time to rehearse. You can ask properly. You don't mind if I try something out? I mean, Richard Tarasi, who we're screening in a couple of days, a director I've worked with a few times. He's terrific like that. I played a governor of Texas, and I rewrote the entire speech. It was good. The foundation was there, but I just had these different ideas. And I said, do you mind, let me just try this. I knew both versions, his and mine, just to see, but he was very gracious. He said, absolutely. And then I paused. I said, what do you think? And he said, damn, I'd vote for you. And so that worked well. But other times I realized, and that's what's great about working with really good actors, I realized certain things, even if I had a problem with how to say it or what exactly it meant or how to express it, really good actors sometimes show you, just shut up and do the work and say it as written, and they find a way to make it work within the character. So yeah, it's a measure thing. I think you really have to be careful and choose when to go all full Robin Williams about it and when to just really, David Chase or Stanley Kubrick, they're not going to want you to just run willy-nilly with it.
Sure, absolutely. Danny, what about you?
Yeah, it really is sort of depends on the project you're on and who you're working with. So you need to sort of respect, the writer, the director, and what they're asking of you. When I was studying, I actually did improv classes. I was part of an improv comedy troupe. I love improvising. I love thinking on my feet and making stuff happen. But I also, had teachers who like taught me the text, starting with Shakespeare and everything, meaning how to analyze a text, how to find the operative words, how to find the meaning and the subtext behind the words, and how to bring that out in the performance. So I am the kind of actor who, you give me the text, unless you tell me I want you to play around with it, I am going to be really true to that text and make those words shine as best I can, and make them come alive. Because not every script is gold, obviously. But my instinct is to first, this is the text, this is all I got, this is what I start with, so this is my Bible. This is going to teach me everything I need to know about the character, the kind of play I'm in, and the tone of the play, hopefully. If that's not there, then yeah, it's more difficult. But then I would also want to know, well, what are my other actors doing? What is my director doing? What kind of environment are they trying to create? And then I'll try to live within that environment, because I want to be part of the same project. I don't want to just be doing my own thing and be separate from everything else. So before I have the director and the other actors, I have the text, and that is telling me what I need to learn. That's all I know at the beginning. And then we go into rehearsal, hopefully, and then we learn more and we understand what people are trying to achieve. And if I have ideas, I'll try to bring that into the performance, but I will only rewrite if I'm asked to. It's my inclination is not to do that, just personally.
Interesting.
Because, and it comes from, spending so much time, learning how to analyze a text, not revere it, but make that the thing that teaches you what you need to know about your performance, about your role, about what's going on, and hoping to find those secrets, those ideas within the words, because that's all you have when you start with a script. You don't have anything else. But yeah, but like I said, I have improvised, and I've created, I've been in situations where the play was created out of improvisation, and it was expected of us actors to come up with ideas, and just do stuff. And then the writer would like take that from us and create a script out of that. So there's, and if you have a director who's asking you to, okay, let's you're in a film shoot, the director says, let's do 3 takes as written, and now let's throw it out and play. You got to be ready to do that. So you got to be ready to play it and bring that and come up with good stuff, because if what you come up with is better than what's in the script, they're going to want to work with you again, if that's what they're looking for, But if you are so constrained that you can only do what's on the page and otherwise you're lost, that's not so good either. So yeah, you need to be able to be loose. You need to be able to play. You need to be able to improvise and try different things if asked of you. You need to be ready to do that. And if you're not comfortable with that, I advise that you take some improv classes, and you can do them online. You can do Zoom improv classes, learn all about yes and, learn about just keeping a story going with positive, constructive ideas that help the other person that you're playing with rather than stopping them. That's what the yes and means. All that stuff, so that you're ready when you need to put the script aside and just try it your way, see what happens. You want to be ready for that.
Sure.
I've had the director tell me about his own script, in the middle of the most intense part of the film. Forget about the script, his script. Don't worry about it. Just let's go. He just wanted that raw energy, But also there's, there's plenty of improvisation physically, which you're not so restrained with. Right. Marlon Brando's cat in The Godfather, which became kind of legendary, it's all just on the spot, on the fly. In the moment, and so you have to find ways. A good director will kind of let you know right out of the gate what kind of director they are, and what leeway, how they expect you to work, so you can work within that to express yourself in different ways.
No, I am curious. A piggyback question on that, if I may. When we talk about improv, talk a bit about, do you prefer to improv? Because you both have done film and theater. I'm not sure, Danny, if you've done television. I know
yes, I have.
your status. talk a bit about in terms of, is improv appropriate for all of those mediums, or is it more specific or easier or more efficient in some ways to use it one medium versus another? And moreover, if you could name one of your idols of improv, who would that be? Because mine's Chaplin. As
Yeah.
we all know, I'm the Chaplin girl, and I want to turn him into Chaplin if I can, because he's great. But yeah, talk a bit about that in terms of the mediums themselves. Do you find that it's easier for you in theater, or do you feel it doesn't fit in theater?
No.
That's specific.
No, you don't, unless it's a play in development or it's being workshopped. No, you don't. It's just, you don't do that. You know, the playwright's right there, and they want their words spoken properly.
Absolutely.
So yeah, theater, film, absolutely. That frees you up a great deal. One of my idols, who was not, just talk about made his whole career from it. It's not quite an idol like Chaplin, but I just love the story. Arlie Ermy in Full Metal Jacket, basically, I want to say stole the role, but won over the role of Sergeant Hartman, all with improv. And Kubrick, of course, if he missed one word of dialogue, he made you do it over again 30 times. Never wanted anybody to make even like a gesture unless it was planned ahead. But Arlie was only the technical advisor, being an ex-Marine. So his job was to whip the extras into shape, drilling and manual of arms and all that. So he took full advantage, because of course it was all being filmed for Stanley to go over. So he used that opportunity as an audition and basically won the role from Tim Colsari, who had worked 8 months on that part, did a phenomenal job. They loved him, but Arlie was just that little extra 10, 20% of authenticity. And they fired him, and they switched him. He became the door gunner for like a brief 2-minute scene. And there you go. Even with a director as controlling as Stanley, if you bring them the goods, even if they're not asking for it and they don't want it from you, and you have the guts to do it, it's just such a fluke. But he had the nerve to do it, so it can be done.
Danny?
I think a real role model or actor to look up to for how to use improvisation is Robin Williams, obviously. A lot of his most famous performances were crafted through improvisations. You know, the genie in Aladdin, they said, just go, come up with stuff, riff, and he would go and go and go, and they would take what they loved best and animate to that, you know, but also other parts like Good Morning America, Good Morning Vietnam, and you know, that all those riffs that he did when he was on the radio, most of that clearly, you know, they were letting him fly, letting him be loose, letting him come up with stuff and come up with new stuff. And then there's one moment in The Birdcage when he does the dance thing. Clearly that came out of improvisation too, where he goes, you know, Martha Graham, Twyla Tharp, and he does that at one point. You just know, oh, that was Robin Williams trying something, and now he's back in character again, you know, for the rest of the movie. But he was also an actor who you could see when required, when it was right for the film, for the moment, he would do the script. He would play the part. It would not be about riffing. It would not be about changing things up. So it was about finding the moments where that kind of creativity, that kind of looseness is right, and then being able to tap into it and really go with it and come up with a lot of goods. And, you know, sometimes this is a more controlled environment. This is a more controlled performance. This is where the words as they are, you know, we're going to stick with them and we're going to play the scene. And you can see that through his career where there are the roles where that sort of loose, manic Robin Williams energy, that improvisatorial genius was tapped into, and where other strengths were tapped into. And it was less about improvisation and more about his soul. It's about his decency or his energy as playing a character. So he could turn it on, he could turn it off as needed, as required for the part. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, you know, from job to job, from project to project, it's about figuring out what's the right dynamic here. How do we want to go about making this the best piece we want it to be? And sometimes that means crafting something through improvisation. And sometimes it means we've got this amazing script let's honor it. Let's flesh it out. And we can improvise to find the best way to flesh it out, but we're going to find our magic moment, and then we're going to, either on stage or in film, we're going to capture that. There's no one way. There's many ways to make something work. And it's always been also my view, from role to role, what's the right approach to this character? How do I want to find this character? Yes, I said I start with the script because that's usually the first thing and the only thing I have, except for maybe the experience I had in the audition room where I got a sense of, what we're going for, maybe. But if I haven't had a first rehearsal yet and all I have a script, well, that's what I start with. And that teaches me what I might need to learn. It might teach me I need to be able to try this many different ways because I don't know what this is. And this is sort of, whatever. And hopefully in the rehearsal room, I'll be given that opportunity. Or I'll be told by the director, this is the way we're going. And then I have to adjust to that.
Right. Oh, of course. Absolutely. Before I get to the last part of the discussion, I'm just wondering, Danny, because I know the answer here. I'm going to guess that most actors have like 6, 7 personalities inside of them. I'm just wondering if that's true, because there's like 6 people over here. A lot. I mean, it's a lot of people in one person. So I'm just wondering at home, maybe you should ask your husband since he's right there. I mean, is that just the norm? Like a lot of you are just like, there's people in there. I mean, it's not just a role. Like there's a lot of people I feel that are here. Like there's a lot of sides. Is that just necessary to be an actor? Because I kind of feel like it is.
Yeah, I certainly have been able to play many different kinds of parts. Let me see what Ed has to say. Ed, she's asking whether I have like 6 or 7 personalities in me.
That's right.
And how many of them are pleasant?
He does this. How many of them are what? Pleasant? How many? That's his answer.
See, I am convinced that every actor has like people in there. Like, today he's channeling crabby Oscar Madison. And then next week it's this peppy sort of like, Alice in Wonderland sort of character. It's weird. And then we'll be in the car and then I'll be like, what? And I'm like, what the hell? Where did Stalker Boy come from? So it's weird how the dynamic changes, like the personality.
I think we all, whether we're actors or not,
Sure.
I think we all have all the possibilities within us, which is wonderful, but also what's so frightening, because the good and the bad and what we're capable as human beings, it's all there. And I think the more we are aware of that, we know that, then we can cultivate what we want to be and learn not to be the things that maybe we would rather not be as people, but as actors, it's our job to cultivate all our facets. So we might be more aware of them and we might have quicker access to them. And that's why they come out more. But I believe that that's more, that's actually every human probably has more in them than, and then we sort of grow up, maybe actors are from start, more willing to play in all those fields. But I wouldn't take that away from the rest of humanity.
No, the it is lurking in all of us, and it is. I do believe it is healthier to let it out a little bit, little controlled, constructive measure once in a while, rather than suppress it.
Yeah, an interesting second question, because this is interesting. I'm sure your husband might. One of the things we talk about is, for instance, actors don't always play good guys. Sometimes they play bad guys, and they have to do certain things. So my question is, I want to know, like, have you ever come home and you played this awful person? Like we had this situation recently where someone played this role that's not very pleasant, and I found myself disturbed. So I'm curious about that in your home life. Have you ever played something where your husband was like, ew, like I know it's acting, but they're just uncomfortable with it? That's a sign of a great actor, I think, when you're so uncomfortable by something they've done. It's kind of not so much personal anymore. It's like that professional sort of thing is just, it sticks with you. Because I was literally disturbed. I was disturbed to watch him.
Did my job.
He did do his job, but it was like creepy and disturbing. So I hope you're not freaking your husband out, like playing something evil or sinister or creepy.
I don't know. Let me ask him. Ed, have I ever freaked you out by a part I've played because it was sinister or evil? Have I ever brought it home in a way that you wish I hadn't brought my work home?
Not a sinister evil one.
Not a sinister evil one, but that implies that sometimes I have brought the work home. I do know that whatever I'm working on will affect will alter my sort of general personality or mood. It does affect me
Sure.
somehow, one way or another. And it used to more, particularly the roles I played, I would notice that more, that I would be, that I think I've gotten a little bit better about, leaving the work outside,
Yes.
when I'm done, and then not becoming the role in my regular life. I think I'm better at that now than I used to be. Um, but yeah, whatever it does, whatever you're working on, it does sort of affect you
Sure.
on some level. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure, definitely. Now, my final two questions for your folks deal with the other subject that I had brought up, which is oftentimes writers, and I'm a writer, or directors, we always are looking to actors to say to us, okay, how do you build that relationship and make it better? Because like some sets where I've been to where I've talked to directors who are like, oh my God, these actors are awful and I can't deal with it. And then sometimes you talk to actors and they're frustrated and flustered, with directors and, writers and such. How do you bridge that gap a bit? Meaning, how do you provide for better relationships? What do you think is the magic key or keys for you folks for you to work better with writers and creators and directors and producers? And moreover, what would you like to see happen? We talk a lot about this in the indie film world. We want to become like Hollywood. So, Hollywood films, it's easier to get distributed, get attention, get seen. Do you guys ever get frustrated by the trend where films sometimes in the indie world, even Sam Rockwell said it, I done lots of indie films that no one saw. So how do the actions of these said people on the other level affect you, and how do you feel about that? Is it frustrating or flustering, or what do you want to see happen here for the wheel to be effective for everybody? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, Michael, or do you want?
Oh, please go ahead.
I think it would be very helpful if every director acted, or at least took an acting class.
Good point.
And every actor also maybe try directing. And for writers, I think the more you understand what the other people are going through, what their needs are, what their, what their process is, so that you can be sensitive to that, the more you can help each other out. Not that there's a lot of different ways to be an actor, a lot of different approaches to acting, a lot of different approaches to directing. There's no one way. But if you have a sensitivity to what the actor's going through, then you can approach them in a way that makes them feel heard. And for actors to be able to hear, what does the director really need, and how can I serve this in that sense? If you go in and sort of make it all about what you want, and not really listen or sense where the others are coming from, whether it's the director or writer or even your other actors, that's when I think a lot of problems can really happen. I think you have to really, and it's a collaborative environment, really learn to understand what the other's work is, what their process is, and be respectful and sensitive to that. And then you can probably have a better time working together, regardless of the particular project or everybody's sort of particular process.
Also, do you feel with the projects where you were in the acting side of things and not the controller, so to speak, or on the helm, have you been satisfied with the progress? Because everybody always wants to finish the project and get it as far out as you can, or sold, or whatever. Did everything come to fruition on a satisfactory level for you?
Not always, sometimes, I've been in so many things. Sometimes they've been immensely satisfying and creative, and you just felt great. You felt fulfilled as an artist, and you also felt that you were creating something that was wonderful. But sometimes you feel really fulfilled as an artist, and then it turns out the piece itself, not so good. Or sometimes the pieces, or you are frustrated as an actor. It was a horrible experience, but that piece is fantastic. What the final, thing, there's anything could happen in that sense. And I've been through it all. I mean, I've been through stuff that I just knew was poor, that had no chance of being any good. And you go in and you just try your best, and you could still have maybe a satisfying experience somehow within the limits of what you're in. But but you really want to work with people that you feel are hearing you and are nurturing you as an artist, and also that you feel that you can serve their work and that there's something worth serving there. You
You
know,
bet.
especially at this point, there was a time when I just wanted to act, and I would do a lot of plays or a lot of projects that I knew this is not going to be very good. I'm not going to invite my friends to this, but I'll just have fun acting in it. I'll still be acting. It'll be fun,
Yes.
whatever. I am less inclined to do that at this point. Life has gotten more precious to me, you know.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. You bet. Michael?
Yeah, no, sometimes it's appalling. The lack of oomph post-production, like if you don't want your film to go anywhere, couldn't you find some better way to spend even a modest budget of $15,000? Couldn't you, you could make a down payment on a piece of property or something with that. Why make a film if you don't want it to go anywhere? And I don't understand it. But yeah, like Danny said, sometimes maybe you're not as less satisfied with your own work, but maybe the weak link, but the film goes somewhere, or you have a big part in it. But it's damn good to be part of something that does get an audience, and they're out there. You just sometimes you really have to ram your way through the wall and get the audience's attention, because there's a lot of content out there. You're competing with a lot of big boys, and
yeah.
David Lynch has been saying for what, over like 5-10 years now, that art house is dead, and that world's getting smaller and smaller, and the venues, the streaming is all controlled by a very limited number of entities. You've got to find a way to get your audience, or don't bother. It's too damn expensive. It's a lot of work.
Also, in terms of when you're on set, like I was saying, when you're working with either pre-production or within or after the fact, how do you bridge that gap? How do you make sure that everybody is working well and effectively and engaging properly so as to produce a good product? What makes it easier for your interactions between you and the director and the crew? How to better mend that? Because that seems to be one thing that keeps coming up is, well, we got along, but then, I've heard you say, even I got frustrated, I yelled at somebody, whatever. How do you make life easier for the actor on set and the director as well?
Well, just respect for starters, and just a little bit of professional courtesy. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but I was on a pretty nice sized production about a year ago, and the director couldn't be bothered to say boo to anybody. So I had the AD and the cinematographer simultaneously giving me contrasting instructions on what to do for the big scene there. And I'm just like, my head's on a swivel, and they don't seem to be, they're oblivious of what they're doing. I'm like, guys, one at a time, you're not a magician here, they have no concept. But like what we were talking about a second ago, I'm very delighted to see more and more the new filmmakers, the programs require in most of these film schools now, all directing majors to take at least one acting class.
Yeah, it's really important that they understand that process. They don't have to be good at it. They just have to understand what the actor needs, what they're going through, what their process is.
Right.
I think the more you have an understanding of what everybody's doing, or what it gives you a greater sensitivity as to, oh, that's why they are responding this way, or that's why they're asking for this. Okay, well, I can give them that. I know where they're coming from now. I can maybe better serve them and be a better director to them, or a better actor to them, or a better writer for them, whatever my job is on the set. The more you understand what everybody's needs and requirements are, the better you can serve the fuller picture.
Yes, and we, if you agree with me, Danny, we have to sometimes, that's why actors get called difficult, but sometimes we have to insist on what we need. On a film that screened at Artist Live last year, the gang, in the cast, they nicknamed me Liz Taylor, just in fun. But I had these very difficult emotional scenes to do, and I would just, while everybody's just kind of getting along and having a good time, I would have to sequester myself and just stay in the zone, because I knew I would just be phoning it in once the cameras rolled. And you just have to be willing to say, I need a minute here. John Frankenheimer is one of my favorite directors, and that famous movie, I forget, with Warren Beatty, it's kind of infamous that Warren did not deliver on the big emotional climax. And John took full responsibility for that. He said, Warren Beatty's a fine actor. I did not give him what he needed He needed help at that moment, and I didn't give it to him.
Mhm.
I mean, some directors, it's really shocking. They just expect you to have like deep, deep emotions in your back pocket that you can just turn on in an instant. And most of us, unless you're unstable, you can't do that.
I had to do that on my own set when I was theoretically directing myself. I had to, I ended up as the actor snapping because everybody else was ready to shoot the scene, and I still needed a moment.
Mhm.
And I had to remind them, ask the actor if he's ready. Even if he's also the director, ask, because I wasn't at that moment, and that was my one diva moment on six days of shooting where I was also directing and acting the part. But yeah, I had a diva moment, and of course I'm watching the all those takes that we had, and so I have to watch that moment, at the monitor and see myself have a wait for the actor moment, and I'm like, oh God.
I'd like to see a film of you watching yourself performing that.
I mean, remember, one of my first thoughts was that when I decided to make this, I was like, that means I'm going to have to watch my own performance and judge it. I'm just going to have, I was like, fine, you just have to suck it up. That's the job. You are the director, you're the actor. If that's what you're doing, don't be a baby about it. Just, that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to live with watching yourself and finding the right take. Be a director to your own acting performance and get over yourself. It is what it is.
Can I ask, because I'm very curious about this, any regrets about directing yourself?
No, I was very easy to work with, except for that one moment.
Best guy ever worked with. Look at that. Well,
yeah, maybe the next film I'll allow a few more actors to be on screen with me, but we'll see what happens.
oh my gosh, look at that.
Give him a couple lines, Jim.
Oh my God, I am burying my own grave. People are going to take that out of context and think I mean
Oh
it.
my gosh.
I actually love working with other actors. I actually like being directed, not having to do it all myself. But,
Of course.
this project was like, well, this is what I got to do now. So that's what I'm going to do next.
Absolutely. I gotcha.
I go back and forth. Sometimes I say, why would anybody want to direct themselves when you lose that extra set of eyes to advise? But
True.
then sometimes you work with a so-so director and you say, I could have done a better job myself, So
Well, in this case, I knew what I needed, but I also had extra eyes that I trusted. I like my cinematographer. I trusted him. I had an assistant director who was also my co-producer, who I know, who knows me, who knows my work, who's seen me act for years. So when he said, Danny, that was good, I think we had it, I could trust that. I could also feel it in myself. I have enough sense of myself as an actor to know when I've given what I can, or if I need to try this one again, So in that moment, I knew I wasn't ready for that take to start, and I hadn't been asked whether I was ready. I was just assumed that I could do it, and that's when I had, on our 6th day of shooting, at 10 o'clock at night, I was like, wait. Let the actor be ready too. I'm not a machine, so.
Yeah. Let me also just interject myself. And of course, I am not an actor, despite what others might say. I am not an actor, but I will interject this much. I do agree with the whole component of the extra set of eyes. I've been very lucky that he has, shown me at least half of his film work, if not more. And so oftentimes he'll come to me and he'll say to me, I want your input, I want to see. But moreover, he'll be very clear about, partners have a tendency to be like, oh, I love him and I have to be nice. And he's like, no. I mean, he's so adamant about stop being nice to me. He's like, it's not about that. I'm not going to respect that if you just say to me, oh, I loved it. He really wants the raw and the real and if it sucked, which I have had to say once or twice, which didn't come well.
Once.
Once, but it wasn't pleasant.
See, I didn't ask for abuse. I just asked for a little.
It's tough because it's like, you don't want to look at that person and be like, yeah, no, that's not working, or the casting wasn't right, or this or this or this, because he is a good actor. But I think it is important to have that second set of eyes and that second opinion, even if it isn't necessarily the best one, it's an honest one or an open one. And I think it can help an actor because they can look at something they can't necessarily see right in front of their eyes, obviously. Not that you guys aren't capable, but now sadly our time is up. Didn't it go so fast? I'm serious, it went so quickly. So before we sign off, because we have to get to our next block and our final feature, Danny, tell everybody where they can find you, as well as Michael, tell everybody where they can find you, and your next project is.
Right, so best place to find me, I'm on Twitter Danny Ashkenazi, but I'm
Yes.
also have an Instagram, but I also have a blog
Yes.
called Notes from a Composer at DannyAshkenazi.com. So if you
Yes.
can figure out how to spell my name, you can find it.
I know it.
And so there's like all my credits and my resumes, but also, random articles that I post and a variety of stuff. And a lot of my music is accessible. You can listen to it in one way or another. And as well as a lot of articles and posts about Telltale Heart.
Sure.
It's got its own designated section on that site. So you can find out a lot about me, more than you'll probably want, just by going there.
Nice. And Michael?
MichaelGentile.net. I've got all my links to YouTube, Facebook, IMDb, and all that good stuff. And once in a while, I actually update it and see what's going on. Very happy to say 2 films screening at the festival this year: The House Arrest Roonies, which is a situational comedy, and Whispering Hollow Road, which is the creepy film she was referencing earlier.
Way creepy.
Yeah.
So creepy, so disturbing.
Yet
Like,
charming.
Digging, not digging. It's still not digging. I've seen it like 7 times, and now I have to do the Q&A, and all I'm thinking is, no, this is so wrong at so many levels.
She almost chucked off my Q&A to somebody else.
Oh, literally.
She didn't
I
wanna
was
do
like,
it.
I don't want to do it. You know how it is? Like, well, imagine if your husband Ed was like, I can't say it, but let's just say that you were less than a pleasant character. And then your husband's like watching you, and it's like, oh my God, did he just do that? And then it like gets in your head, and you're like, oh my God. So it's a bit much. But
More like a complete predator, but hey, who's
evil.
nitpicking?
He's got to get off the evil. Somebody cast him in comedy, I'd be so happy.
I just
I'm
said
like,
the
do
other.
it.
I just said the other one's a comedy, so come
Yes,
on.
the other one is a comedy. Absolutely. So, folks, again, you can check out both Danny and Michael tomorrow, because they are both screening tomorrow. As a matter of fact, Danny screens first and Michael screens thereafter, which is kind of nice. They're
Yes.
kind of piggybacking each other.
Great.
Q&A for both. Thank you, boys, so much for doing this. I cannot thank you enough. I
Thank
think
you.
it's important as a founder that we pass on knowledge and information to people who are curious about the industry, veterans. So you're doing a great service. Thank you. Thank you. Both of you.
Pleasure, Danny.
Absolutely.
Your trailer
Pleasure
I
talking
saw
to you.
looks fantastic. I'm looking forward
Thank
to the
you.
full thing tomorrow.
Absolutely. All right.
Looking
So
forward to
we'll
watching your film too.
Yes, and tomorrow. We'll sign off
Yeah.
now. Come join us if you can for the comedy block. We've got the comedy block and then our last feature film, and then we actually get to hang. We actually get to not work tonight for a little while.
Trying to hang
So,
as
yeah,
much as I can.
We are definitely. So yes, we'll sign off for now, and we'll be right back on, folks, in like 4 minutes. We have to get our next block all ready. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right.
Not tonight.
Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
dear. Bye, Ed.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.